Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to explain why I think a $200,000 Bitcoin is all but guaranteed in the year 2025. I'm going to be covering two different catalysts for Bitcoin's price in great detail and why these two factors alone could help Bitcoin's price at least double by the end of the year. This is not financial advice. Please make sure you do your own research, but in my opinion, a 200K Bitcoin in the year 2025 is pretty much inevitable. This would be a total of just over 100% gain in the year 2025, with the Bitcoin price currently at just under 100K. In the year 2024, Bitcoin's total return was over 120% gain, and that was mostly due to one of the two factors, which is the Bitcoin ETFs. ETFs are a complete game changer for any asset, but for Bitcoin, it legitimizes it as an asset class, it helps tremendously with mass adoption, and of course it brings in billions upon billions of dollars. In order to emphasize the importance of ETFs, let's go back in time and look at the gold ETFs, which were approved in 2004. In its first year, gold ETFs brought in $3.4 billion, and in its second year, it brought in $6.5 billion. But what's most interesting about the gold ETFs is after they were approved, the gold price went up for 8 years straight. It started in the low 400s in 2004, and by 2012, gold's price was almost $1,700 an ounce. While it is possible for Bitcoin's price to go up for the next 8 years, it's important to know that with most ETFs, their second year is much better than their first year. Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise, Matt Hogan, has been watching the Bitcoin ETFs since they were approved, and he's confident that the Bitcoin ETFs will have a much better year than they did last year.
As you guys know, I come from an ETF background. I was CEO of ETF.com, spent 15 years in that industry. I've watched 5,500 ETFs launch. In almost every single case, year two is bigger than year one, and year three is bigger than year two. And there are reasons for that. These ETFs need to be approved on multiple platforms. Investors need to do their due diligence. We move a lot faster in the crypto world than traditional investors do in the traditional world. This is a great chart showing exactly this, comparing the inflows into the gold ETF versus what we've seen in Bitcoin. There are two takeaways from this chart. One, you can see that the inflows into Bitcoin vastly outweigh the inflows into gold in the year one. But the more important story, the story you don't see sort of told, is watch how the gold inflows grow year after year after year, right? It's straight up and to the right in an accelerating fashion.
It doubled from year one to year two.
And here's the thing. Everyone was so excited in year one that they launched. Everyone was like, this is the fastest growing ETF of all time. It's amazing. It's pulled in $1 billion in the first week. This thing is outrageous. And the assumption was all the money that had been sitting on the sidelines waiting to come in had already come in, and you're going to see this asymptotic top where it was just going to level off and you get a few $100 million in. But that's exactly not what happened. It hasn't happened for any ETF in the history of ETFs. I don't know why it would happen for Bitcoin. We're going to see these ETFs approved on Morgan Stanley, on UBS, on Wells Fargo. We're going to see sort of the regulatory overhang, the gray shadow removed from these ETFs. And I think $32 billion is absolutely the floor. I wouldn't be surprised if it was significantly higher than that. And I don't think the market understands this because they assume that all the flows have happened and now it's just a trickle. It's exactly the opposite. The slope goes up, not down.
Remember how I told you the gold ETFs brought in $3.4 billion in their first year? Well, the Bitcoin ETFs did 10 times that. They brought in about $36 billion in their very first year. So if Matt is correct, that means in 2025, we should expect at least that same amount, if not double. So let's just be conservative and say we're expecting another $36 billion into the Bitcoin ETFs. Well, in the month of January, the Bitcoin ETFs brought in about 50,000 Bitcoin worth about $4.9 billion. So at this rate, they're on track for another $30 billion year. Now, don't get me wrong, $36 billion is quite a lot of money, but that brings me to my second catalyst, which is Michael Saylor and his Bitcoin treasury company Strategy. Much like the ETF, Strategy had a huge part to play in the price appreciation of Bitcoin in 2024 because they bought $22 billion worth of Bitcoin just by themselves. Michael Saylor's Bitcoin strategy is very simple. He's just going to keep raising debt, selling stock, all to buy Bitcoin forever. And why wouldn't he do it? Because his Bitcoin strategy is clearly working. His stock is up over 300% in the year 2024. It was one of the best performing stocks in the entire stock market. In October, Michael Saylor announced his 21-21 plan, where he plans on raising $42 billion over the next 3 years to do, guess what? Buy Bitcoin. Even though the timeline says 3 years, he's on track to do it a lot sooner than that, which is why I think he's going to buy at least another $20 billion of Bitcoin in the year 2025. So far this year, Strategy has bought 18,527 Bitcoin, and just this week, they raised another $2 billion of convertible senior notes to convert into Bitcoin, which would bring their total Bitcoin holdings to over 500,000 Bitcoin. Michael Saylor is the biggest Bitcoin maxi in the world, and he's even said himself he's going to be buying the top of Bitcoin forever.
And I'm going to be buying Bitcoin at the top forever. I joked with Dave Portnoy today. He said, I missed it at 10,000. I missed it at 20,000. I missed it at 100,000. I said, Dave, it's still less than $1 million a coin. You're getting a 90% discount from $1 million a coin. I'm sure that I will be buying Bitcoin at $1 million a coin, probably $1 billion a day of Bitcoin at $1 million a coin. And so I think it's a very simple idea. It's just keep buying Bitcoin with your spare capital. It's going to appreciate against the dollar forever.
In conclusion, Michael Saylor and the Bitcoin ETFs both were huge catalysts in the reason why Bitcoin went from $40,000 in the beginning of 2024 to over $100,000 by the end of it. Conservatively, I think we will at least see the same amount of inflows from both of these parties in the year 2025 into Bitcoin. But realistically, I think those inflows could be much, much more. For example, the Bitcoin ETFs might bring in $50 billion this time, or Strategy might be able to raise that $20 billion a lot quicker than expected, and maybe they'll actually put 30 or 40 billion dollars into Bitcoin this year. We don't know for sure what's going to happen. This is just my prediction. Remember, this is not financial advice, but I want you to keep in mind this isn't including anything else besides these two parties, just the ETFs and Michael Saylor's strategy. This doesn't include sovereign wealth funds. This doesn't include pension funds. This doesn't include the United States potentially starting a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I mean, there's so many factors that lead to Bitcoin's price going up. I will definitely discuss them in further videos, but for now, please let me know what you think in the comments. If you like the content, please leave me a like. Let me know, give me some feedback, and I'll be back with more videos for you soon.